Every single day I wake up, make myself a strong coffee, and reluctantly browse the latest clown world news. Every single day there is another absolutely obscene, nonsensical fiasco that our government is up to. Every day they get up to another idiocratic mess that anywhere else in this world, and anyone with the slightest iota of any cognitive ability would find absurdly ridiculous and, quite frankly, laughable. This trend has been around for many, many years before COVID, and now has culminated in the headlining center stage menagerie of factions within our group of so-called leaders that now all want to get their grubby, rancid hands on either the tax-paying slaves' money or the institutions or governments dumb enough to send tips to these dancing fools. This week has not been any different. So Cyril said, right, no booze, still no cigs. We can't go visit our families, and, well, the economy continues to crumble all around us. Here's the thing, folks. The economy was tanking long before COVID. And the only people to blame for this is the utterly corrupt, thieving, racist ANC. They use their unrelenting influence over people to destroy this country, both mentally, economically, and most importantly, spiritually. They have dug up and stolen every aspect of our lives away from us with zero hesitance and absolutely no regards for the citizens' well-being. They, and they alone, stand in front of South Africans, against South Africans. They threaten South Africans. They take away South African freedoms. They mock South Africans. And they treat South Africans like children. Is this the type of abuse South Africans should take? Think about it. Would you take this type of abuse from your spouse? Of course not. So booze was allowed to be sold. Allowed to be sold. At certain limitations, of course. And breweries and the liquor industry breathed a sigh of relief. But then, on Sunday, with no warning, along came dear Cyril, and he tells the liquor industry, sorry, we're shutting you plebs down. That's it. Don't ask questions. Sit down. Shut up. And his reasoning? Party goers and violent drunks. Because, oaks can't help punching up their wives when they are drunk. And you wonder why this country is spiritually destroyed. Let me tell you this. If you think an abusive drunk is bad when he's drunk, just wait until he's not drunk, or drunk on some other kind of bootlegged rubbish he found off the back of a bakkie and spent his last bit of money on, so that his family now has to go starving and be abused. It just goes to show you that this government has zero idea of what goes on outside their cushy estates and 150,000 rand a month guaranteed salaries, paid with by stolen money, of course. Not to mention the thousands of jobs that are being lost, breweries closing down, wine farms that have existed for decades closing their doors, and food being taken off of families' tables. Guys, we live in South Africa. We're not Australia, or the UK, or the United States. We cannot afford this lockdown. I don't know if it has or if it is yet to dawn on you, but we are currently struggling with a whopping 30% unemployment rate and expected to get worse. All that on the back of a 2% crash of GDP. Then we have government spending hundreds of millions on communist doctors, scooters, and digging graves. How can anyone in their right minds think this sort of behavior is in any way based in logic? There is no way at all that this country can afford this lockdown. There's really no debating that. If we think for one moment that we have a problem with COVID, just wait until we have a COVID problem, and a malnutrition problem, and a drunk accidents problem, and a gender-based violence problem. Then add to that an unemployment problem. With that comes a crime problem. Then comes the government not having any money to maintain public services. Then our roads are screwed, and food can't get anywhere. And the list of doom goes on and on. Now, from a personal perspective, I don't care much about the booze thing, or the cigarette thing for that matter. I'm an average drinker and I don't smoke. It's the curfew thing that gets me. Because I guess they don't want people winding down with their families because they are not afraid of a virus with a 99% survival rate. In difficult times, it's the comfort of family and the enjoyment of human company that boosts morale. It's the connection with other humans that keeps one sane. The government knows that all too well. This is their motivation for these bans and curfews. People that have a positive spirit are people that pull their socks up, start new businesses against all odds, and become less reliant on the government. But you see, folks, the ANC can't have that. If they can't destroy you, they will destroy every chance you have of a better life so that they can ultimately control you. Classic communist tactics. It's about time we wised up to this and faced these truths. So the taxi industry are now our new heroes, even though they will still probably vote the ANC in, but they basically told the government to piss off. So what did the government come back with? 100% capacity within your province, I guess, and 70% inter-provincial capacity. That's funny. The taxis will be loaded at 120%. We all know that. But we all knew that the taxi industry wasn't going to take government's attempts to strong-arm them. But I'm not too fussed about the taxi guys. They already did good. It's the big businesses and corporates. They're the biggest problem here. The very same corporates whose supply chain is now in tethers and are just quite happy to retrench hundreds of thousands of people because Big Daddy government and their nonsensical play made-up laws said so. It's these families that are now retrenched and without jobs. The same families that gave decades of their lives to these companies. They are now tossed out to the wolves because the big boy in the glass tower is too scared to stand up to a tyrannical government. Perhaps they aren't. Perhaps, and I hope for the sake of their souls, they're planning some sort of revolt against the government in secret. I doubt it, but we can dream, I guess. Anyway, it's these very same big corporates that will aid and abet their own destruction like good enablers while the ANC strips them of everything they have worked hard for. All in the name of the National Democratic Revolution. They have doubled down on this during the lockdown and see this as an opportunity to destroy this economy and make it completely reliant on this evil government and their brood of thieves and men drunk on power, men of talk. Dear Mr. Big Corporate, don't for one second think that your future is secured, big corporate bosses. Communism, socialism, and Marxism is spreading very fast in this world, and you might think you can run, but the revolutionaries will catch up to you. Either you do something now, or you witness your own demise. This lockdown should have been over more than a month ago. I mean, completely over. The government had 3 months to prepare for this, and what have they done? Absolutely nothing. Squat. There was a lot of talk, a lot of nonsensical banning, a lot of rubbish rules, but the hospitals have not been jacked up. There are no clear plans on how we are going to combat the situation, and quite frankly, our health system has always been a disaster and was never going to be able to cope with a pandemic. Again, our government acting like they are something they aren't. I swear this government is like little Jimmy. You know, the kid at school who would always do stupid things to get attention? Ew, don't eat that worm, Jimmy. Oh no, he actually ate the worm. That's basically our government. They think they are doing all these amazing things, but everyone else sees them as little Jimmy. But then, of course, there is the thing that the ANC is dedicated to the National Democratic Revolution, so yeah, they're pretty high ranking on the communist scale. Basically, they're Jimmy, but Jimmy can also beat up and abuse his friends around him while stealing their pocket money. Yeah, this lockdown was a dumb idea to begin with. But if it had to happen, it should have been over ages ago. Are you crazy, Scott? Don't you know people are dying out there? Yeah, people die. Loads of people die. But more people are going to die because of poverty and starvation brought about by dumb and corrupt little Jimmy governments. Don't believe me? Just open any history book. You're welcome. Okay, so there's this contagious disease out there. It's called tuberculosis. You might have heard of it. It's really severe, especially here in South Africa. In fact, although these numbers are not quite clear, between 60,000 and as much as 100,000 people die from it every year. But Scott, it's not as contagious as COVID. Well, maybe in certain instances, yes. But the most important part is its mortality rate. All round, it has a mortality rate of about 14 to 15%. So, what is COVID's current death rate? About 1.5 to 1.6%. Yeah, and we locked down an entire country for this. But Scott, there's a vaccine for tuberculosis. Sure. The BCG vaccine, although widely given to babies in South Africa, does not, I repeat, does not always protect people against TB. Quite frankly, neither does any vaccine. And there's never been a mass lockdown around the world, even when TB ravaged its way through Europe and the United States. Even around 1860, during the great TB outbreak in the Eastern Cape, there was never a lockdown. Oh, and hospitals? What hospitals? Anyway, don't get caught up in the noise, folks. This government is a joke. Christ is on our side. He is our salvation. In the end, we win. So be brave. Stand up. Carry on. Pull yourself up. Raise your family to be strong in Christ and reject Marxism, socialism, and communism.